Right, welcome to the fourth out of 5 presentation on mountain flying techniques, and let's see what I've got this round for you. I said here first we're going to look at now we're getting to the real stuff. The constant path approach and then consideration cautions. Now the constant path approach or the constant angle approach. This is the kind of approach that was developed for multi-engine helicopters. So if you're in an approach and you're sitting here and you lose the one engine, let's say there, you can still land on the deck or wherever you were approaching to. Now this is such a great method. It really is. And applying this to helicopters, single engine helicopters, to approach and to land, and during night vision goggle approaches and landings, and there's so many things. It's just an absolute. So let's have a look at this one, and maybe you'll get as excited as I am. The constant path approach and landing the pilots to perform a normal circuit and position for a constant path approach. All right, now maybe I should just do this first and then say, but okay, so what is the constant path approach? Let's just get ourselves a little bit of a mountain there, and we want to land in this area here. The wind is blowing from here, just for interest's sake. We've got roundabout demarcation line on this side, so this will be downdraft side or the leeway, and this will be the updraft side. And what we want to do is fly at a height to a position where we can have one angle, a constant angle or constant path. Have you flown that before? Well, if you've flown an ILS, you have definitely flown a constant path approach. That's it. There's nothing more. It's nothing less. The idea here is, let me show you, is that here you will enter, let's say for argument's sake at 40 knots, but here you're going to have 0. Here, there you're going to probably have about 200 feet. Here you're going to have 0 feet. So during this descent, the height and the speed is going to reduce to a 0-0 condition. 0 height above the ground, 0 speed. And the idea is to touch down. Yes, I know, but sometimes we must get into the hover. Yes, we can get a little bit in the hover there if you want to check something out before you physically land, or you can't land or whatever. But you will find that if you do a proper constant path approach, that your rate of descent at the end, nearer the end, will come down. Remember, the limit here is 350 foot rate of descent, which is only with the collective, and the speed or the over and undershoot is with the cyclic. You're all going to try and do it like all with the collective. Believe me, the collective is only there for climber rate of descent, and if you should change anything, then you must touch up here to maintain the rate of descent. What is the rate of descent? 300 to 350 foot. If it's up to 500, you must get it back. If you can't, and it goes before 800, you've got to break off. Okay? Those are the rules. Stick to those rules and you can fly into a stadium, confined area landings, mountain tops, any and all NVG approaches. And you will not pick up vortex ring state or even close to that in the transition phase. In other words, that phase. Let's now, just for this argument, don't be too puristic on me now, below 20 knots down to 0 knots, you can have a rate of descent of 350, 500 feet a minute. Remember, we were taught vertical descent at 500 feet a minute. So, okay, so get over that one. You can. But in the transition period, which is not in the vertical hover, but through here, the aircraft will shake. Don't worry. Done a million of these things. Never, ever, ever, ever has it shown any problem. This is a great approach. No, I didn't think this out. I was taught this as well. I think it's absolutely a fantastic approach. The procedures and flying techniques are the same for normal flying, but for the assessment of the demarcation line and intended spot of landing. Now, that's an important part because you still got to fly a circuit and you know, see what it is. And an approach must be initiated above the demarcation line. The pilot is to aim to land on the plateau, past the halfway, a little 2/3 in the landing, towards the upwind side or the updraft side of the plateau. Now let me just show if I again just have this little plateau here. Let's say the wind is coming from this side, all right? Yeah, from this side, is that because this is the updraft, we know that the demarcation line is there somewhere, but we would rather like to land more safely on closer to the updraft side than the downdraft side. And that's basically all that this one is saying. During an approach, an escape route must be kept into mind and used should the circumstances so demand. It's like going around. Well, why didn't you go around? Yeah, well, no. Remember, to go around in a helicopter or a fixed wing or whatever you're flying, the go around, there's only a good time to do that, and that's to initiate it and go around. And that's a bad time is when you should have done that. And I know I'm not giving you much, but when you get that feeling that might not be working, put that power in the corner and accelerate like hell. All right? That you can get out there, break off. In the mountain, you can always. It's a mountain. And if you're working on pinnacles, look, if you're on top of a plateau, that's not a problem because the plateau's, you know, there. You're not going to go below the plateau. But if you're on the side of the mountain, there's enough potential energy with the height to put that into speed. Okay. I do say this again here, that you must keep the escape route. There must always be an escape route. Never, the escape route is part of the planning. Okay, so what I've done here is I said, okay, on the specific spot, on this specific part of the area, I wanted to land on the plateau here on the right. Okay, that's fine. So I'm going to look over the area, look at it, assess the wind, and I've assessed the wind. Okay, and now this height above here, around about 200 feet above this height here, all right, and the speed I'm going to enter here in the smaller helicopters, even the biggest like the, you know, even your Pumas and Super Pumas, let's just go through that. 40 knots is a magic number in most helicopter, well, in all the helicopters that I know, all right. Most of the single engine fly out capabilities of your Super Pumas and so on will be guaranteed at max all up weight in speed of 45 knots. All right, I promise you 40 knots is good enough. 40 knots, 40 knot, 40 knot approach. 40, okay, make it 45 if your machine says so. It's not going to make a huge difference. But at the end, you're going to have to break the speed. And how you break the speed on the different deck landings, and this is not now propagating your deck landings, all right? Although, basically, very nearly the same method for the landing. The takeoff, remember, that's different. So, for now, let's just stick to this very one that we've got here. Okay. So, this is where we've got, and remember I said 40 knots here to enter. This will be 0 height, 0 speed at the end. Okay. Just in the big picture again, we've got the downdraft area, they've got the, you know, the demarcation and all the rest. And now we get on to the level 200 feet above the LZ. There I've got 40 knots. There I've got it. And constant angle, and there you go. I cannot end up in this area here because that's the bad area, and there is a good area. To overshoot is, well, you just can't land there. All right, so let's have a look. I say here, and let's get some more pictures up there, then you can enjoy that. I said the approach profile remains the same even if the plateau is wider on top. If one can hug the mountain top considering wind concern, then the approach may be adapted. Hugging the mountain, I was meaning, you know, hugging the mountain, let me get some different color there, hugging the mountain, you know, flying just above this mountain up here, and let's say to go and land there. That you can. Hugging the mountain, close to the mountain, you are literally 6 to 10 feet above the mountain, and you just follow the contours. All right. Now, by the way, that I've done many high mountain climbings on a downwind situation. Just remember, when you get to the top, you are in a downwind situation. And if you don't understand the techniques and how to sort that out, please don't do that. If it's a very high headwind in this area, then maybe the mountain is too strong with the uphill and you actually haven't got enough power to go up. So please don't just go and play with this. We all started with calm conditions and then we worked it up. But we are thinking constantly, we're constantly seeing the wind. We are constantly moving, doing new stuff. All right. Now here we're going now for the approach. It's just another way of seeing it. There we're going straight in, there we're going straight in, and before you know it, there we're going straight in, and we landed there. It's always difficult to say, you know, which one do I prefer. I personally prefer the constant path approach. But I've got no problem, if that is not possible, to do an outer wind level and cross over. It's horses for courses. Well, probably not the correct saying to use with this one, but the point is that keep on thinking. Don't just say, which one do you prefer? Which one can I use? Which one is right for this? Which one have I been trained? Do not, carefully, do not go and do this at home. Okay? You must be trained in this. You need somebody to sit you, to help you to do this. I have never flown the first time constant path approach with anybody in my whole life. Well, maybe it's not as old as you are, but the point is that I've flown with nobody that could do the constant path approach the first time correctly. They screwed up something, okay? And it's here from the third, fourth, fifth, sixth attempt that we start getting the feel and the understanding of it. And the more you do it, obviously, the easier it becomes. But the rule stays the rule. The rate of descent not to be exceeded. 350 foot a minute. If it goes more, touch up with collective. All right. Let's have a look at the next picture. Now, here we've got a different picture. Here you can see 11,000 feet. You can't really see there, but here we've got some 60 knots plus. We've got manifold air pressure. So this is the real photo, and with the Robinson 44 at 11,000 feet. And the wind during this day was coming down the mountain from the front and down. So this area here in front of the mountain was virtually impossible to fly in. There is just no way that you could survive. It was so bumpy, it was outside, I think, the limits of anything. So we had to fly, and that the mountain is only about 9 and 9,500 feet high there. So we, now at 11,000 feet, we are definitely about 1,500 minimum above the mountain. And we still had turbulence. But that was, we could manage that, no problem. And then, the only thing that I say is just remember, approach with caution. I don't want us to be too frightened of stuff. That's not the idea. But rather be chicken than stupid. Rather be chicken than dead. Okay, whatever the case might be. Okay, the rate of D, 300 to 500 minimum final approach during 300 feet, but you will see that your rate of D will naturally come down in that last part to under 200, 150 foot, and that is really no problem. Should the rate of D exceed the maximum limit when below transition, the pilot's executor overshoot and avoid the downdraft area for the next attempt. Again, what I'm saying here, as I've said before, is do not be afraid to break off, to go around. Doesn't matter what you want to call it, all right? When I'm flying with you, I don't judge you if you go in. I judge you if your judgment is right. And if your judgment is that you break off, then it's fine. Then you break off. And I will be happy with that. And then we will talk about it again, and we will set it up again, and we'll go in again. I'm sure there is no way that you can fly this approach to impress me. I'm not there to be impressed. But when you stick to the rules, I can always put the tick there. You can do that. That wasn't bad. That was good. That was an A. I'm happy with that. I'm not going to admire you for that. I'm just going to pray that for the rest of your life you're going to stick to the rules. Enough preaching. See you in the last presentation.